Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Further to continue with the deciphering of the Ramayana, today with the knowledge bestowed on me by the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me decipher the Ayodhya Kanda, which is the second book of Ramayana, and unravel the true knowledge of Ramayana. When Rama was about 25 years old, Dasharatha decided to make him as Yuvaraja, meaning the prince regent, as mentioned in the book number 3, chapter 47, verse number 10, and book number 2, chapter 1, verse number 42. According to the chapter number 8, Manthara, a maidservant of Kaikeyi, told her that Dasharatha is playing a fool on you and deceiving you by appointing Rama as Yuvaraja. If it is so, you will become a maid to Kausalya, Bharata may become a servant to Rama, and Rama do wrong to Bharata. So, devise some means to prevent this. According to the chapter number 9, Manthara suggested Kaikeyi to claim two boons which Dasharatha granted her during a war in the form of Bharata's ascension as Yuvaraja and banishment of Rama to forest for 14 years. Manthara also suggested to go to the sulking room and lie down on the bare floor, weeping, to convince Dasharatha. Along with Manthara, Kaikeyi went to the sulking chamber, casting away her costly pearl necklace and many other costly ornaments throwing on the floor. The large-eyed queen Kaikeyi then spoke to Manthara in the sulking chamber, lying on the floor. This is the image of Kaikeyi in the sulking chamber. The sulking chamber is meant for expressing the hot temper. This indicates that there exists a hot spot in the mantle near south of Africa where the temperature is high compared to its surrounding. This also indicates that the hot oceanic crust representing the Kaikeyi and Manthara has subducted into the large low shear velocity province aka LLSVP African super plume, where the LLSVP is mentioned as the sulking chamber. Later, a part of the African plate has also subducted, as it is mentioned that Dasharatha entered to the sulking chamber in search of Kaikeyi, as mentioned in the chapter number 10, verse number 22. There, Kaikeyi said to Dasharatha, "Let Bharata be the Yuvaraja with the same preparations as have been made for the installation of Rama. Let the Rama lead the life of a hermit for 14 years, as mentioned in the chapter 11, verse number 24 to 27. When Rama was ready to go to forest, Sita and Lakshmana too insisted to join him. So, Rama allowed them to come along with him to the forest, as mentioned in the chapter 21, verse number 8 and 21, and chapter number 31, verse number 3. All this information indicates that the oceanic crusts representing the Manthara and Kaikeyi that are subjected into the LLSVP are responsible for the breaking of Indian tectonic plate from the African plate. Kaikeyi gave clothes of bark to wear to Rama, Lakshmana and Sita, as mentioned in the chapter 37, verse number 6. Dasharatha told Sumantra to bring a best chariot and drop Rama beyond the territories of Ayodhya, as mentioned in the chapter 39, verse number 10. On this, Sumantra brought the chariot decked with ornaments. Rama mounted the chariot followed by Lakshmana and Sita, as mentioned in the chapter 40, verse number 13 to 16. Sumantra drove the horses, which were thought highly of and wide in speed, with the velocity of the wind, as mentioned in the chapter 40, verse number 17. Rama commanded the charioteer in the words, "Let the chariot be driven fast," as mentioned in the chapter 40, verse number 31. Rama turned back and saw that Dasharatha and Kaikeyi were following the chariot. Seeing them walking, he commanded the charioteer to drive fast, as mentioned in the chapter 40, verse number 39 to 41. All this information is related to the separation of the Indian tectonic plate from the African plate. As mentioned in the part 1, Dasharatha represents the South African region of African plate, Rama represents the Indian plate, and Lakshmana represents the Sri Lanka. The Sita represents the Tethys Sea, and Sumantra, the charioteer, represents the mantle plume present at the Reunion Island. This is the image of Sumantra. This mantle plume is responsible for the initial advancements of the Indian plate movement. The statements Sumatra drove the horses which were weight speed with the velocity of wind and Rama asked Sumatra to drive the chariot fast indicate that the speed of movement of the Indian plate during this time was extremely high. The statement Dasharatha and Kausalya were following the chariot indicate that the Indian plate has dragged the African plate to some distance. The departure of the Rama to the forest for 14 years marks the journey of the Indian plate after separation from the African plate to the present position of the Indian plate. The tract lying between the Madagascar and the Himalayas is the region of Dandaka forest, which was a part of the Tethys Sea. According to the chapter 45, people followed Rama on his way to the forest for exile and asked him to return to Ayodhya. While the people were trying to persuade Rama to return, the river Tamasa came to view as though retarding the progress of Rama, where Sumatra released the tired horses from the chariot and gave bath to them in the river Tamasa as mentioned in the chapter 45, verse number 32 to 33. The river Tamasa represents the transform fault present at the east of the South Africa and Mozambique, which is called the Mozambique Fracture Zone. The statement mentioned in the chapter 40, verse number 1, where it is mentioned that Rama along with Sita and Lakshmana went round of Dasharatha in a clockwise direction indicate that the Indian plate was rotated in a clockwise direction and aligned along the east-west direction after tearing apart from the African plate. After traveling some distance by crossing several rivers like Vedashruti, Gomati, and Sandika, Rama, standing with his face turned towards Ayodhya, addressed to Ayodhya like, I take leave of you. When the period of my exile in the forest has expired and I have got squared with the emperor, I shall see you again, united once more with my mother and father, as mentioned in the chapter 50, verse number 3. This is the image of Rama, and this indicates that during this time the Indian plate has rotated and aligned along the present north-south direction. After this realignment, the Indian plate moved at a moderate speed as mentioned in the chapter 50, verse number 11, where it is mentioned that then Rama drove at a moderate speed. The transform faults present in the vicinity of east of Africa and south of Madagascar are mentioned as the rivers like Tamasa, Vedashruti, Gomati, and Sandika. According to the chapter 50, verse number 26 to 28, Rama halted near a large ingudi tree in the vicinity of Sringaverapura. This is the image of the ingudi tree and this is the location of Sringaverapura, which was a junction of two plates. It is further mentioned in the chapter 50, verse number 33 to 35 that the king of that territory, a friend of Rama named Guha, ruling that territory called Nishada, have arrived to meet Rama. Seeing from distance the ruler of the Nishada waiting, Rama along with Lakshmana thereupon went forth to meet Guha. This indicates that the Indian plate moved further in the direction of Mauritius island, which is mentioned as Guha, and its territory is called Nishada. During this movement, the Mauritius microplate collided with the Indian plate, as it is mentioned in the verse number 36 that the Guha closely embraced Rama. This is the image of Guha representing the Mauritius islands. Guha also represents the tortoise of Mauritius and his kinsman represents the turtles. As per the orders of Guha, his ministers brought a stout boat duly equipped with oars and a helmsman in which Rama along with Sita and Lakshmana quickly departed from there as mentioned in the chapter 52 verse number 6 and 73. This is the image of a stout boat representing the Rodriguez Island. After bidding farewell to Sumatra and Guha, Rama asked the boatmen to row the boat as mentioned in the chapter 52, verse number 81, indicate that the hotspot present in the Rodriguez Island helped the Indian plate to move further. They all then reached the land of Vatsa. The land comprised between the Ganga and Yamuna rivers, as mentioned in the chapter 52, verse number 101, indicating the distance traveled by the Indian plate during this time, where the land of Vatsa represents the land north of Rodriguez Islands. According to the details mentioned in the chapter 54, verse number 1 to 25, Rama along with Sita and Lakshmana reached the ashram of sage Bharadwaja. The Seychelles represent the sage Bharadwaja and the Seychelles microplate represent his hermitage. This is the image of Bharadwaja who was sitting in the company of beasts and birds as well as hermits all around, as mentioned in the verse number 19 to 20. This suggests that the plume present in the Silhut island represents the sage Bharadwaja. Rama requested Bharadwaja to show some suitable land for their stay in the forest. On his request, Bharadwaja suggested him to stay in the Chitrakuta mountain, which is rich in sustenance, birds and animals, as mentioned in the verse number 28 to 42. Bharadwaja also travelled along with Rama for some distance and showed the path to Chitrakuta, then returned, as mentioned in the chapter 55, verse number 10. This indicates that the plume representing the Bharadwaja, which is present in the vicinity of Seychelles, has guided the Indian plate to some distance and provided a direction for movement to it for further migration and gets separated from it. After this, the plume representing Rama and Lakshmana has become active and carried the Indian plate further, as mentioned in the chapter 55, verse number 18, where it is mentioned that the Rama and Lakshmana now cautiously began to row the raft. On the way to Chitrakuta, they reached the cool banyan tree covered with green leaves and accordingly bearing the name Shyama, as mentioned in the chapter 55, verse number 23. The oceanic ridge present near Chagos Island is mentioned as the cool banyan tree, where the subsurface waters are having less temperature compared to the surface temperature. Here, the color of the ocean water is dark blue, which is mentioned as the dark colored leaves, bearing the name Shama, meaning dark or blue color in Sanskrit. After this, on moving further, Rama showed the Kimsuka tree laden with blossoms on all sides and appearing as though illuminated and adorned with garlands, as it were due to the rose of their flowers in this vernal season, synchronizing with the close of winter, as mentioned in the chapter 56, verse number 6. The Diego Garcia and its adjacent islands are compared with the garland and metaphorically mentioned as the blossom of Kimsuka trees. According to the chapter 56, verse number 9 to 15, going on foot with Sita, the two brothers then reached the delightful and soul-captivating Chitrakuta hill, which is having elevated peaks infested with herds of elephants and rendered noisy by flocks of birds. Chitrakuta consisting of level grounds and covered by many trees. High-souled ascetics too dwell on this mountain. It may prove habitable. Let us take up our abode here, said Rama. Then Rama said to fetch strong and excellent logs of wood and erect a hut. My mind is intent on dwelling here, as mentioned in the chapter 56, verse number 19. On this, Lakshmana brought boughs of various trees, and with them he erected a hut of leaves. Then all the three princely exiles entered together for habitation the aforesaid soul-captivating hut, thatched with the leaves of trees, erected well on a suitable site, and sheltered from winds, as mentioned in the chapter 56, verse number 34. Rejoiced to reach the exceedingly delightful Chitrakuta, Rama for his part rejoiced and shed the agony caused by his exile from the city of Ayodhya, as mentioned in the chapter 56, verse number 35. This indicates that the Indian plate has stopped migration and stationed at this place during this time. This is the place called Chitrakuta, and this is the hut erected by Lakshmana, where one can see the hut thatched with the leaves of trees and consolidated with wall of strong wooden stakes. According to the chapter 57, verse number 1 to 3, and learning from the spies of Guha that the Rama is staying in Chitrakuta, Sumantra left for Ayodhya, indicate that the reunion island representing the Sumantra has migrated back towards the African plate, which represents the Ayodhya. In the chapter number 63 and 64, Dasharatha explains a story of a young hermit boy and his blind parents to Kausalya. This story is popularly known as the story of Shravanakumara, but the name Shravanakumara is not mentioned in the Valmiki Ramayana. So, I am not mentioning the name Shravanakumara here. Dasharatha killed the hermit boy, and because of this, his father cursed Dasharatha, saying, "As this agony caused by the death of my son is being experienced by me at this moment, you too will likewise meet your end through grief, born of separation from your son." After explaining this story, Dasharatha reached the end of his life in the presence of Kaushalya and Sumitra, as mentioned in the chapter 64, verse number 77. This story explains the cause for the splitting of the Pangaea during the global glacial period, where the single continent and a single ocean are compared with the old blind parents of a young hermit boy, and the young hermit boy could be a newly formed or fragmented part of the Pangaea which was destroyed by a portion of the African plate, or a plume representing Dasharatha. After the death of Dasharatha, all the councillors demanded to appoint Bharata as the king. Therefore, Vasishtha sent messengers to bring Bharata from his grandfather's place, Rajagraha of Kaikeya, as mentioned in the chapter 68, verse number 3 to 6. Earlier, Bharata, along with his maternal uncle Yudhajit and Shatrughna, left to Kaikeya, as mentioned in the book number 1, chapter 77, verse number 19. On receiving the message of Vasishtha, Bharata returned to Ayodhya, as mentioned in the chapter 71, verse number 32. All this information indicates that earlier the South American plate has taken away the Madagascar along with it during its separation from Africa, and later Madagascar returned to the present place where the South American plate represents the Kaikeya. After returning from Kaikeya, Bharata refused to be the king and said, "Rama will be the ruler of the earth, since he is our elder brother. I, for my part, shall reside in the forest for 14 years on his behalf. I shall bring back in state my brother Rama from the forest," as mentioned in the chapter 79, verse number 1 to 9. According to the chapter 82, verse number 27, Bharata said to Sumantra, "Get my chariot ready soon." And the next morning, mounting an excellent chariot, Bharata forthwith departed with expeditions with a longing to see Rama, as mentioned in the chapter 83, verse number 1. All the councillors, family priests, and family members also joined the expedition, as mentioned in the chapter 83, verse number 2 to 115. After covering a long distance from Ayodhya in chariots and palanquins and on the back of horses and elephants, they reached the bank of Ganga in the precincts of Sringaverapura, where dwelt the valiant Guha, a friend of Rama, surrounded by hosts of his kinsmen and ruling that area with vigilance, as mentioned in the chapter 83, verse number 19 to 20. According to the chapter 89, verse number 7 to 12 and 18 to 23, Bharata asked the Guha to ferry them across the Ganga on a number of boats. On this, Guha and his kinsmen brought 500 boats known by the name of Swastika. After crossing the Ganga, Bharata and others reached the hermitage of Bharadwaja, where Bharadwaja represents the Seychelles Islands. The corals of the Seychelles Islands are mentioned as the groves surrounding the hermitage of Bharadwaja, which is confirmed from the chapter 89, verse number 23, where it is mentioned that on reaching the hermitage of Bharadwaja, Bharata saw the extensive and delightful grove surrounding the hermitage, consisting of clusters of trees interspersed with lovely huts of leafy twigs, which represents the corals. As mentioned earlier, Bharata and Shatrughna represents the Madagascar island and Guha and Sumatra represents the Mauritius and Reunion Islands respectively. The Rodriguez Islands represent the boat brought by Guha known by the name of Swastika. This indicates that the Madagascar island was ferried initially by the Reunion Island hotspot and later by the Mauritius and Rodriguez Island hotspot respectively. A detailed description of formation of Seychelles Islands and geological conditions exist during that time is cited in the chapter 91. As it is beyond the scope of this presentation, I am not mentioning all those details but a few following details. According to the chapter 91, Bharadwaja treated Bharata and his army with different dishes and luxuries by invoking various gods to provide for the treating of Bharata's army. On this, many different trees sprang up in that area. Then, after a short while, streams having milk thickened with rice flowed past Bharata on the command of Bharadwaja. During that very hour, arrived there women and celestial nymphs adorned with jewels as mentioned in the chapter 91, verse number 41 to 45. They said to the troops to drink wine or milk, and a batch of 7 or 8 young women bathed every single man on the charming river banks after first daubing his body with a fragrant paste of oil seeds and then rubbing off the dirt, kneading the feet of men as mentioned in the chapter 91, verse number 52 to 54. On getting this enjoyment, the troops of Bharata said, "We shall neither return to Ayodhya nor go to the Dandaka forest." This is the heaven. Adorned with garlands, the troops ran in every direction, dancing and laughing and singing. This event marks the origin of the coral islands of Seychelles, where the lagoons and atolls represent the celestial nymphs or apsaras. The coral islands of Seychelles are mentioned as the hermitage of Bharadwaja as mentioned earlier. According to the chapter 89, verse number 19, Bharata's army that includes elephants with flags on their back actually shown like winged mountains is related to the army of whales where the whales are mentioned as elephants. As an enactment of this event, the whales migrate up to this place from the southern Indian Ocean where whales and other large marine animals are cleaned by small fishes called cleaner wrasses, which removes parasites and dead skin from them, and these coral islands are aptly called as the cleaning stations. As an enactment of this event, the Seychelles has remained as a holiday destination for humans as well, where people feel relaxed and joyful at this place. On an inquiry of Bharata about the Rama's present location, Bharadwaja said, "Your brother is dwelling at present on the great Chitrakuta mountain, as mentioned in the chapter 90, verse number 18 to 22. According to the chapter 92, verse number 1 to 18, on an inquiry of Bharata about the direction of Rama's location, Bharadwaja said, at a distance of 2.5 yojana from here, in the midst of forests uninhabited by men other than ascetics, there stands a well-known mountain named Chitrakuta, abounding in lovely caves and groves. Touching its northern side flows the river Mandakini, shaded by trees in blossom and hemmed with lovely groves laden with flowers. Not far from that river and adjacent to the Chitrakuta hill, you will find the hut of the two brothers made of leafy twigs. The two brothers undoubtedly dwell in that hut. Leaving by the southern route, take the army full of elephants and horses along the bypath, turning to the left and proceeding southwards. Proceeding along that route, you will be able to behold Rama. This confirms that this is the place called Chitrakuta and this is the image of the hut of Rama made with the leafy twigs where the small faults are referred as the leafy twigs. This is the image of Rama standing near the hut. The details of the Rama's hut are mentioned in the chapter number 56 and 99. The hut is made up of excellent logs of wood and thatched with leafy twigs which enclose a small cottage with a wooden wall with doors intended for Sita. The hut was adorned with very strong bows, arrows, couple of swords, and two shields, instrumental in accomplishing great deeds and capable of causing pain to the enemy. In that hut, Rama was sitting on a leveled and square piece of ground strewn with blades of kusa grass, along with Sita and Lakshmana. It is mentioned in the chapter 56, verse number 10 to 11, and chapter 94, verse number 4, 11, and 13 that the Chitrakuta is a mountain adorned with peaks rich in minerals, contains level ground on the top of this mountain, and the mountain looks like an elephant. This is the image of Rama sitting on a leveled and square piece of rock engraved in the Indian peninsula by the creator of the universe. The square piece of rock represents the rocks of Dharwar Cretan, and the strewn Kusa grass represents the spinifex texture of comatite rocks, maybe of Sargur group. This also indicates that the Indian plate was sitting on a vast elevated platform or plateau with flat grounds at the top, which is mentioned as Chitrakuta. The peaks and the peaks with flat top could represent sea mounts and ghats. It is also mentioned in the chapter 94, verse number 23 that the Chitrakuta appears as though risen, having split the earth, indicates that the mid-ocean ridges representing the Chitrakuta mountain might have formed at an ancient divergent boundary. The statement the hut was adorned with very strong bows, arrows, couple of swords, and two shields indicate that the frontal lobe of the Indian plate was in the form of a bow, where mountain roots are jutting out from its front like arrows and also contain dikes and couple of cratons in it. It is described in the chapter 99 that the Rama, the protector of the earth extending up to the ocean, who had shoulders resembling a lion's and eyes resembling a pair of lotuses, and had a rounded mass of matted hair on his head, wearing the skin of a black buck and clad in a strip of bark. This indicates that the size of the Indian plate is big and it was extending up to the edge of the Tethys, which is mentioned as the ocean. Similarly, the width is also large, which is mentioned as the lion's shoulders. Rama had a rounded mass of matted hair on his head. This is the image of Rama, and on his head one can see the wavy matted hair as mentioned in the Ramayana. As mentioned in one of my previous presentations, Prophets Revealed and Evolution of Life, Rama is mentioned as Prophet Dulkifl in Quran, meaning the one with double fold which can be seen on his head. The presence of wavy matted hair and the other details confirms that Prophet Rama is mentioned as Prophet Dulkifl in Quran. Therefore, I request the followers of the Prophet Muhammad to believe in Rama and Ramayana as well and respect them in the same way as you respect Quran and other scriptures. Similarly, I request all the followers of the Prophet Rama to believe in Quran as it confirms the earlier scriptures as mentioned in the Quran chapter 2 verse number 41. Also request you to respect the other prophets as well in the same way you respect Rama. This also confirms that the Ramayana is also a revelation of the lone creator of the universe, whose name is Ishwar, Bhagwan, Yahweh, God, and Allah. It is also mentioned in the chapter 99, verse number 24 that it also comprised a spacious holy altar inclining towards the southeast and with a lighted fireplace on it, indicate that there was a plateau inclining towards the southeast with a volcano in it, where the lighted fireplace of altar indicates an active volcano. This is the southeast direction as the poles were reversed during that time, and this is the plateau in the southeast corner. The Mount Sikaram present in the Afghanistan-Pakistan border could be the volcano representing Rama, which has formed from the mantle plume representing the Rama. The Sikaram is also called Sikaram Sar, where the meaning of Sar in Pashto and Urdu language is head, confirming that this is the head of Rama. In fact, the word Shikaram might have evolved from the word Shikaram, which encompasses two words, Shikha and Ram, where in Sanskrit the meaning of Shikha is a tuft of hair, indicating it is the hair of Rama. Therefore, the meaning of Shikaram Sar is hair of the Rama's head. Therefore, it should be Shikharam Sar, not Shikaram Sar. This confirms that this is the head of Indian plate and this is the extent of Greater India called the Akhanda Bharat. When we talk about the human evolution, Rama represents the hominins, as it is mentioned that the Rama had shoulders resembling a lion's and eyes resembling a pair of lotuses and had a rounded mass of matted hair on his head, wearing the skin of a black buck and clad in a strip of bark, as mentioned in the chapter 99, verse number 25 to 28. If we zoom further at the Mount Shikharam, we can see the image of Rama with long arms, broad shoulders, and eyes resembling the lotus. If you zoom further and view in terrain mode from different angles, one can get more images of Rama with long rounded arms, with broad shoulders, and matted hair, as you can see in these slides. These are the few more images of Rama. When we talk about the rocks, the statement Rama had eyes resembling a pair of lotuses may indicate the organ structure of Nisus. Similarly, the skin of blackbuck and strip of bark worn by Rama may indicate the Nisus and migmatites. Rama himself may represent the basalt, especially tholeitic basalts. Bharata may represent the rhyolite, Lakshmana may represent the andesite, and Shatrughna may represent the dacite rocks. In this context, the variolitic texture present in the tholeitic basalt may indicate the lotus-like eyes. This indicates that the Rama and his three brothers represent the volcanic rocks. The statement, "The hut is made up of excellent logs of wood and thatched with leafy twigs, which enclosed a small cottage with a wooden wall with doors intended for Sita," indicate the composition of andesite, where the logs of wood represents the plagioclase and hornblende, and leaf represents the mica, where the small cottage indicate the intersertal texture, where the glass is mentioned as Sita. It is mentioned in the chapter 15, verse number 46 that Sumantra saw the charming elephant in Rat that carried Rama on its back and was tall as a mountain, crowned with a large mass of cloud, was most formidable and could not be controlled with a goad. This is one more image of Rama with lotus eyes, where Rama is sitting on an elephant, where Rama represents the southern Granite terrain and the elephant represents the Eastern Ghat mobile belt. All this information confirms that the Rama represents the Indian tectonic plate. In fact, Rama is synonymous to India. Therefore, I request everyone not to change the gender of Rama by calling India a motherland, as Rama is male. This also indicates that India is a fatherland, and therefore I request everyone not to insult Rama by calling India Bharat Mata either. Instead, it is better to say Jai Shri Ram and Jai Bharat. According to the chapter 96, verse number 1 to 11, as Bharata and his army approaching the Chitrakuta, the dust raised by the army rose to the skies, and many wild animals have taken to flight helter-skelter in various directions. Observing all these, Rama asked Lakshmana to look for the reason. Enjoined thus, the Lakshmana climbed up with a great expedition a salt tree in the blossom, and surveying all the quarters, fixed his gaze on the eastern quarter. According to chapter 98, verse number 16, Bharata hastily climbed up a salt tree standing on the Chitrakuta mountain, saw a towering column of smoke issuing from fire in Rama's hermitage. It is also mentioned in the chapter 112, verse number 15 that the Bharata is of dark brown complexion and had eyes resembling the petals of a lotus. These details and the act of climbing of tree by Lakshmana and Bharata indicate that they both belong to feline family, where Lakshmana represents the Sri Lankan leopard and Bharata represents the Madagascar fossa, where Rama represents the Indian lions. Further, it is noted that Bharata saying to the Rama, "The power to emulate your ruling capacity does not lie in me, O ruler of the globe," as mentioned in the chapter 105, verse number 6, indicate the smaller stature of fossa compared to the lion. This also indicates the smaller size of Madagascar plate compared to the Indian plate. But when we talk about the human evolution, Rama represents the ancestral hominins or apes, and Bharata may represent the red-roofed lemurs. As the color of Bharata is of dark brown complexion and is having matted locks on his head, as mentioned in the chapter 112, verse number 23 to 27. The description provided in the chapter 99, verse number 25 to 28, it can be understood that Rama belongs to the ancestral hominins or archaic humans, where it is mentioned that the shoulders of Rama resembling a lion and eyes resembling a pair of lotuses, wearing the skin of a black buck and clad in a strip of bark. Further, it also suggests that there were 4 species of ancestral humans representing Rama and his 3 brothers who have branched out from a single father but from 3 different mothers. From this, we can understand that the Ramayana is also about the human evolution and human migration. This also indicates that the ancestral humans migrated to India through sea route and co-evolved along with Indian plate migration. Therefore, we must conduct a detailed study of scriptures to understand the human evolution and migration. On seeing Rama seated in the hut, Bharata rushed towards him as mentioned in the chapter 99, verse number 29. This indicates that the Madagascar plate rushed towards the Indian plate and collided with it during this time. As mentioned in the chapter 103, verse number 1, on hearing the pathetic news relating to the death of his father, King Dasharatha, as told by Bharata, Rama fainted there, indicate that the mantle plume present at the Shikharam representing the Rama has momentarily lost its activity. According to the chapter 103, verse number 17 to 27, Rama, along with his 3 brothers and Sita, with the help of Sumantra, descended to the river Mandakini to offer water to the departed soul of his father, King Dasharatha. After offering water, Rama ascended to the banks of the river Mandakini, as mentioned in the chapter 103, verse number 28 and 31. This indicates that during this time the Indian plate has experienced subsidence at this place caused by the Reunion Island hotspot, which represents the Sumatra, and lost some amounts of magmatic fluids due to partial melting. Later, the Indian plate has experienced the upliftment. This is also related to the partial melting and metamorphism, subsidence and upliftment of rocks of southern granulite terrain and other rocks of peninsular India. The fault present in front of Rama's hut near Chitrakuta represents the river Mandakini. The next morning, Bharata insists the return of Rama to Ayodhya as mentioned in the chapter 105, verse number 4, where Bharata offered to return the kingdom to Rama. According to the chapter 106, verse number 26 to 32, Bharata suggested the consecrating of Rama as the king of Ayodhya at the very spot in the presence of ministers and Vasistha and march back to Ayodhya in order to rule over it. Else, I too shall depart with you to the forest if you proceed from this place to the forest alone. Rama declined the offer of Bharata as mentioned in the chapter 111 and 112. On this, Bharata said, "Stand with your feet on the pair of wooden sandals embellished with gold placed before you. Surely these will supply the needs and ensure the safety of men." Placing his feet on the sandals and immediately leaving them, Rama gave them to the high-souled Bharata as mentioned in the chapter 112, verse number 21 to 22. After this, Bharata transferred the burden of rulership to the wooden sandals and said, "I should like to live outside the city for 14 years. longing for your return to the capital, as mentioned in the chapter 112, verse number 23 to 27. Then, placing the pair of wooden sandals on his head, Bharata, for his part, full of joy and accompanied by Shatrughna, forthwith ascended the chariot to return to Ayodhya, as mentioned in the chapter 113, verse number 1. The Madagascar island is of the shape of sandals, representing the sandals that Rama gave to Bharata. As mentioned earlier, these are the images of Bharata and Shatrughna, which are the parts of Madagascar plate. This suggests that after some time, the Madagascar plate has moved away from the Indian plate with the help of Reunion Island hotspot, as the Indian plate has not returned with it, though the Madagascar plate did drag it strongly. The statement, keeping the river Mandakini and the Chitrakuta mountain to the right, Bharata along with Shatrughna departed with their face turned towards the east, as mentioned in the chapter 113, verse number 3, indicate that the poles were reversed during this time. Here, one can see the face of Bharata and Shatrughna is facing towards the present west, confirming there was a polar reversal. After dropping his mothers to Ayodhya, Bharata along with Shatrughna then proceeded to Nandigrama by driving the chariot fast to live there, as mentioned in the chapter 115, verse number 2 to 23. All these details indicate that after dropping the three oceanic microplates representing the Bharata's mothers, the Madagascar plate has quickly moved away from the African plate with high speed with the help of hot spot representing Bharata. The Madagascar plate and the present place of Madagascar represent the Nandigrama. After this event, the ascetics present in the Chitrakuta are leaving their hermitage hurriedly to live in the nearby hermitage of sage Ashwa because of the threat from a man-eating demon named Khara, who is a younger brother of Ravana, who had uprooted all the ascetics in the Janasthana, as mentioned in the chapter 116, verse number 12 and 20. When all the ascetics left Chitrakuta, Rama did not like to continue his stay anymore there for many reasons and departed from Chitrakuta along with Sita and Lakshmana, as mentioned in the chapter 117, verse number 1 to 4. All these details are related to the movement of various small and big plumes and land masses from the place called Chitrakuta, which is an elevated land in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Sri Lanka. Apart from the departure of Rama, as mentioned in the preceding chapters, few sages moved towards the ashram of Bharadwaja. Later, Bharata and his associates moved back to Ayodhya from this place. Some of the rocks have consumed the mantle material during their formation or metamorphism. Moreover, the movement of the Indian plate have subducted the oceanic crust called the Chitrakuta. All this information indicates the movement of the multiple small plumes and smaller land masses away from this place called Chitrakuta. During their movement, these plumes and microplates have taken away some amount of mantle material, and their movement, apart from the subduction of the oceanic crust called the Chitrakuta, is responsible for the creation of the gravity hole in the Indian Ocean off the coast of Sri Lanka. A detailed description related to the creation of gravity hole is present in different chapters, but as it is beyond the scope of this presentation, I am not including all those details here. This is the hermitage of sage Ashwa representing the Cocos and Christmas Islands. This is the image of sage Ashwa. This is the extent of the forest called Dandaka, starting from the eastern coast of Madagascar up to the Himalayas, and the stretch of Tethys Sea from present-day Mediterranean to the Japan is mentioned as the Janasthana. In the vicinity of Janasthana, a subsurface oceanic mantle plume or a ghost mantle plume representing Khara, a man-eating Rakshasa that consumes the continental rocks, is destroying all the smaller continental land masses and smaller plumes. After leaving the Chitrakuta, Rama along with Sita and Lakshmana reached the hermitage of sage Atri, who introduced them to his wife Anasuya. Anasuya is very old and had a wrinkled, feeble body with grey hair due to the old age and whose frame constantly shook like a banana tree in a storm, as mentioned in the chapter 117, verse number 8 to 12 and 17 to 18. The plume present in the Chagos archipelago represents the sage Atri, and the adjacent oceanic plate represents his wife Anasuya. Here, in this image, one can see the old Anasuya with a wrinkled body. Anasuya bestowed gifts to Sita in the form of celestial garland, garment, and ornaments, cosmetics, and precious unguents, as mentioned in the chapter 118, verse number 18. Having duly adorned herself, Sita, for her part, who looked like a daughter of gods, went forward to meet Rama on that occasion, as mentioned in the chapter 119, verse number 12. The island of Maldives represent the garland gifted by Anasuya, and this is the beautiful image of Sita with ornaments representing the Maldives and Lakshadweep island ridge. This event marks the origin of Maldives and Lakshadweep islands. This is the image of Rama to whom Sita went to meet, as mentioned earlier, where Rama is having broad eyes and long arms. According to the chapter 119, verse number 17 to 22, when Rama and Lakshmana took leave of the ascetics dwelling in the forest, hermits of Atri showed the way to the Dandaka forest. Accompanied by good wishes and benedictions, Rama made his way into the heart of the forest along with his consort and Lakshmana, as the sun would penetrate a mass of clouds. The plains of Tethys Sea of this region are called as the Dandaka forest, as shown in this image. The smaller plumes present in the vicinity of the Chagos Island have created the path of movement for the Indian plate to move further in this direction. On this path, the mantle plume of Shikaram, representing the Rama, has moved further, carrying the Indian plate towards the Eurasian plate into the heart of Tethys Sea, which is mentioned as the Dandaka forest. As a human enactment, Prophet Rama has enacted all these events during his lifetime. This completes the book 2 of Ramayana, called the Ayodhya Kanda, marking the second stage of geological history of the Indian tectonic plate and early migration of Indian plate. From this Kanda, we can infer that all the reported volcanic activity associated with the reunion hotspot up to the Sikaram is not caused due to the single hotspot called the reunion hotspot. In fact, it belongs to different mantle plumes. Also, can learn about the evolution and early migration of humans, migration of Indian tectonic plate, and formation of the gravity hole in the Indian Ocean. This also confirms that the Ramayana is a scientific narration called Revelation of the Lone Creator of the Universe, whose name is Ishwar, Bhagavan, Yahweh, God, and Allah. All this information implies that the religion is not different than science and science is not different than religion. They go hand in hand and they are intertwined. In this presentation, I have tried to show some of the details regarding the separation and early migration of Indian tectonic plate and will try to decipher the remaining kandas of Ramayana in future presentations, inshallah. But we are left with a short time before the commencement of the Pralaya, the Qiyama. Therefore, I request the science and religious scholars to join hands with me to decipher the Ramayana and the other scriptures within a reasonable time before it is too late and spread the true knowledge of Allah to protect the human race. Some of you may call me madman, as mentioned in the Quran, chapter number 44, verse number 14, and some of you may also try to harm me as well, but these are the facts. This is my honest interpretation of the scriptures, but the true knowledge lies with Allah alone. Peace be upon on all of these prophets, and all praises to Allah alone, the Lord of the universe. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.